Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles. No wife, no kids, no life. Mia's new husband had sneered when we unexpectedly crossed paths at a restaurant. Just a waste of space, Maya had added with a laugh. I didn't respond. I just smiled and walked away. 3 days later, my voicemail was overflowing with their frantic messages. I never expected to see Maya again. Not like that. The last time we were in the same room, we were signing the divorce papers. It was a bitter final step to a relationship that had ended long before the ink dried. Whatever we once had was gone. Seeing her now, carefree and laughing, ripped open a wound I thought had long since healed. I hadn't planned to see anyone that night. I only stopped by the restaurant for a quiet meal, just a simple way to close out my day before heading home to the silence I'd grown to accept. The scent of garlic butter and seared steak filled the air, and I let myself relax just for a moment. Then I heard her. I wasn't even facing their table yet, but I recognized her voice instantly. Maya, the woman who once promised to love me forever, now sharing dinner with her new husband, Gavin? I didn't intend to eavesdrop, but they weren't trying to be discreet. No wife, no kids, no life. Gavin said loud enough for half the restaurant to hear, his voice thick with smugness. Just a waste of space, Maya chimed in, her voice easily carrying across the room. Their words hit me hard, squeezing the air from my chest. Some patrons glanced my way, a few smirking, others more blatant in their amusement. For a second, the whole room seemed to collapse inward. My body stiffened, instinct rising, rage, hurt, shame. The old me would have snapped. Back then, when Maya and I were still married, I'd have thrown their words back at them with venom. But that man was gone. I drew in a slow, steady breath. My pulse calmed. I sipped my water and set the glass down deliberately. Then I did something they hadn't counted on. I smiled. Not a smirk, not a fake. Bitter grin, a real smile. Slow, sure, unshaken. Gavin faltered just slightly. Maya shifted in her seat, her laughter dimming. They wanted to provoke me. They wanted to see me fall apart. I refused. I pulled out my wallet, laid enough cash on the table to cover the bill, stood, and walked out without even glancing at them. I heard them laughing as I left, but the sound had changed. Forced, uncertain. Let them think they'd won. Let them have their petty moment. But life has a way of flipping the script. 3 days later, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I let it go to voicemail. I had no reason to listen. Whatever they wanted, I didn't care. But when I finally checked the messages, their voices weren't full of mockery anymore. They were full of desperation. Maya's voice trembled through the speaker. Please, we need to talk. Then came Gavin, sounding nothing like the smug man from the restaurant. Pick up, man. It's serious. The MIS calls kept coming. So did the messages. Something had clearly happened. And now, for whatever reason, they needed me. At first, ignoring them was easy. I'd spent years unlearning the reflex to answer when Maya called, training myself not to look for her name on my phone, to kill the instinct to care. She had made her choices. I had made mine. We'd walked away from each other, and I had long since closed that chapter of my life. But the calls didn't stop. Each morning, I'd wake up to a phone full of missed calls and voicemails, their voices practically pleading. Maya's tone, once sharp and self-assured, was now unsteady and anxious. Please, we need to talk. At first, I deleted the messages without listening to the end. But as they kept coming, especially Gavin's curiosity began to gnaw at me. Gavin, who just days ago had mocked me without hesitation, now sounded completely different. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something I never expected from him. Fear. Man, pick up. It's serious. We need to talk. I sat with my phone in my hand, unsure of what to do. I didn't know them anything. Whatever mess they were in was their problem. A part of me even enjoyed the idea of letting them sit in silence. The way they had laughed at me before, they had made me feel small, insignificant. And now they were the ones reaching out. Still, the sheer number of calls made me wonder what had happened that was so urgent, it drove Gavin to swallow his pride and call me. Eventually, I answered one of Ma's calls. "Hello," I said, keeping my tone neutral, distant. There was a pause, then a sharp inhale. "Thank God," she breathed. "You answered." She didn't sound anything like the woman from the restaurant. This Maya was rattled, panicked. "What do you want?" I asked flatly. "Please, we need to meet. It's urgent." I stayed silent, letting her sit in the discomfort, letting her feel what it meant to ask for something from me. "Why?" I asked finally. She hesitated. I could hear Gavin's voice in the background, low, insistent, as if he were feeding her lines. "Our business," she began, but faltered. Her voice trembled, the tension in her breath unmistakable. This wasn't a woman trying to gloat. This was someone genuinely afraid. "Our business is in trouble," she said at last. "Serious trouble." I leaned back, adjusting the phone against my ear. She let out a frustrated breath, clearly irritated by my lack of response. "We need help," she said. I smirked to myself, even though she couldn't see it. "And you think I can help?" Silence. Then Gavin's voice cut in louder now. "Look, man, we're in deep and you're involved whether you like it or not." I frowned. "Excuse me." Maya took the phone back. "We need to explain in person." I thought about hanging up. Part of me wanted to let them stew in whatever mess they'd created for themselves. But Gavin's words echoed in my mind. "You're involved whether you like it or not." I sighed. Fine. They named a small cafe on the far side of town, secluded enough to make it clear they didn't want to be seen meeting with me. That only made me more curious. The next morning I arrived and spotted them already seated in a corner booth. They looked worn out, jittery. Maya was pale, her normally impeccable appearance a little undone. Her hair wasn't as styled as usual, and she was anxiously shredding a napkin. Gavin, typically full of swagger, sat rigidly, eyes darting around the room, like he expected someone to jump him. I didn't rush. I ordered a coffee, took my time, and finally slid into the seat across from them. They both watched me, eyes filled with unease. "All right," I said, taking a sip. "What's so urgent?" Gavin cleared his throat, gave Maya a quick glance, then spoke. "We're having financial difficulties." I raised an eyebrow. "And that's supposed to concern me?" Maya swallowed. "It's bad." She admitted the business. She trailed off, clutching the napkin tighter. "We're on the verge of collapse." I tilted my head. I thought Gavin was some kind of financial genius. Gavin tensed at the jab but didn't rise to it. He leaned in instead, lowering his voice. "There's more. It's not just the business, it's the loans." Something in his tone made me sit up straighter. "What loans?" I asked, a slow dread creeping in. Maya bit her lip, guilt washing over her expression. She inhaled shakily. "You're listed as a co-signer." The words didn't register at first. I stared at her, blinking. "What?" She looked away on some of our loans. A high-pitched ringing filled my ears, the kind that comes when your brain refuses to accept what it's hearing. "I never co-signed anything," I said slowly. She flinched. The ringing intensified. "What are you saying?" I demanded. Gavin shifted in his seat. "Look, man, it's—" I turned to Maya, my stomach churning. "Tell me exactly what do you mean?" She took a breath. "There are multiple loans, hundreds of thousands, and they all have your name on them." My pulse spiked. "That's not possible. I never signed anything." Gavin exhaled sharply, eyes anywhere but on mine. And then it hit me. I sat upright, ice flooding my veins. "Ice! You forged my signature," I whispered. Neither of them denied it. Suddenly the cafe felt too small, too hot. My breath came fast, my fists clenched. "How much?" I asked, my voice barely above a growl. Maya hesitated. "How much?" I repeated more sharply. She spoke quietly. "Over $400,000? I let out a slow, bitter laugh. 400 grand in my name. I leaned back, exhaling hard. Gavin started to speak. "Look, man, it's not as bad as it sounds if you just help us." I raised a hand to silence him. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice steady but lethal. "You both humiliate me in public. You laugh in my face. You call me a joke. Then behind my back, you steal my identity, rack up hundreds of thousands in debt, and now you want my help." They said nothing. I shook my head, gripping the coffee cup so tight I thought it might crack in my hand. "Unbelievable," I muttered. I stood up, chair scraping slowly behind me. Maya reached for my arm. "Please," she said, her voice desperate. "If you don't help us, we're finished." I pulled my arm away. "You already are," I said, then walked out, leaving them to rot in the ruin they had created. They had stolen from me my name, my identity, my future. Now it was time to make them pay. I didn't go home right away. After storming out of the cafe, my hands were still trembling, my mind spinning through every desperate explanation, every wild hope that what I just heard wasn't real. But there was no denying it. Maya and Gavin had forged my signature. They had stolen my identity, trashed my credit, and used my name to bankroll their crumbling business and extravagant lifestyle for $100,000. The number kept ringing in my head like a drum. I got into my car and gripped the steering wheel so tight my hands started to ache. I tried to take slow, deep breaths, fighting to calm the anger building inside me. This wasn't just betrayal, it was criminal. I needed answers, proof. I needed to know exactly how far this went. So instead of going home, I drove straight to my lawyer's office. Mr. Cameron had been my attorney for years. He was calm, unflappable, the type who never flinched under pressure and always had a strategy. When I burst into his office without an appointment, his secretary barely had time to stop me before I was already pacing in front of his desk. He adjusted his glasses and leaned back in his chair. "This must be serious," he said, watching me closely. I dropped into the seat across from him, letting out a sharp breath. "It's beyond serious." "I need you to check something for me," he nodded. "Go on." I dragged a hand down my face and met his gaze. "I think my ex-wife and her husband forged my signature on several loans. I need to know if it's true." His expression stayed neutral, but I saw the glint in his eyes. "How much are we talking?" I clenched my jaw for $100,000. That got a reaction. Mr. Cameron straightened in his chair. "That's substantial." "No kidding." I exhaled slowly. They admitted it, but I need concrete evidence. He picked up a legal pad and started jotting notes. "Did they mention which banks or lenders?" I walked him through everything Maya had said at the cafe, my voice rising with each detail. When I finished, he nodded and reached for his phone. "I'll make some calls," he said. "Give me a few hours." I stood. "I'll wait." "You should go home, get some rest." I gave him a look. I'm not leaving until I know how bad this really is. He didn't argue, just nodded and got to work. 3 hours later, I had my answer. And it was worse than I imagined. I sat across from Mr. Cameron as he laid out the documents, loan papers, bank records, everything. All of it tied to my name, none of it with my consent. My signature had been forged on multiple contracts. The loans had been taken out over the course of 2 years. 2 years they'd been stealing from me, long before our run-in at the restaurant. Slowly, carefully, methodically, draining my credit, counting on the fact that I would never notice. I felt physically sick. "They're screwed," Mr. Cameron said flatly. "And they know it. That's why they came to you." I clenched my fists. "How bad is it for me?" He sighed. "Right now, the banks see you as the liable party. Legally, those debts are in your name." "But it's fraud," I said through gritted teeth. "Exactly," he replied, leaning forward. "And that's what we're going to prove." I exhaled slowly, trying to take it all in. "What's our next move?" "First, we freeze any accounts connected to your name that could be used to commit more fraud. Then we dispute each loan with evidence of forgery. The banks will launch their own investigations, but with the right legal approach, we can shift the liability onto them, not you." I nodded. "And what about Maya and Gavin?" Mr. Cameron allowed himself a faint, cold smile. "Oh, they're in serious trouble." The words settled deep in my chest. They thought they could rob me and get away with it. that I'd roll over, forgive, and help clean up their mess. They were dead wrong. I left Mr. Cameron's office feeling more composed than I had since that humiliating night at the restaurant. But I wasn't finished. I needed more than legal justice. I needed the full truth. So I hired a private investigator. It took less than a day for the PI to dig up more filth. Gavin hadn't only forged my name. He'd been embezzling from their own business, creating fake expenses, doctoring records, and hiding it all with forged documents. And Maya knew that was the gut punch. She wasn't just a bystander. She had approved fraudulent transactions. She had enabled the entire scheme. Had she ever loved me, or was I just a stepping stone in her climb through a web of lies? The more I discovered, the angrier I became. I had spent years blaming myself for the failure of our marriage, wondering what I'd done wrong. But now I saw her clearly. She had always been this way. I had just refused to see it. The next morning my phone rang. It was Maya. I let it go to voicemail. Then Gavin called. I ignored that too. Then came the text. Maya, please can we talk? Gavin, we can fix this. Don't do anything crazy. Maya, again, I made a mistake, okay? But we can figure it out. Gavin, come on, man. No need to bring lawyers into this. I laughed bitterly at that one. Too late. I typed a single reply. See you in court. I pictured the panic on their faces as they read it. Good. They deserved every ounce of fear and regret. They had betrayed me, stolen from me, and tried to manipulate me. Now it was their turn to face the consequences. I didn't wait around. With the evidence of forgery, theft, and embezzlement in hand, I knew what I had to do. I would confront them not through texts or calls, face to face. I wanted to see the panic in their eyes when they realized they'd lost. So I arranged a meeting at Maya's house, the house we once shared, the one she'd used to flaunt her new life when she left me. Fitting, really? The same place where she had crushed me would now be the place where the truth caught up with her. As I pulled into the driveway, I took a deep breath and steadied myself. Stay calm, stay in control. I wasn't here to argue, I was here to end this. Maya opened the door, her face taut with anxiety. You came, she said, almost breathless. I walked past her without a word, my eyes scanning the house. It looked different now, disheveled, tired. The stress had seeped into the walls. Gavin was already in the living room, standing rigid near the couch. He looked terrible. The smug arrogance he usually wore like armor was gone, replaced by something that looked a lot like fear. Good. I pulled a stack of bank documents from my pocket and dropped them onto the coffee table with a thud. Let's talk about these loans, I said, my voice cold and steady. Maya flinched at the sound of the papers. Gavin didn't say a word. His jaw clenched tight. I crossed my arms. Go on. Explain to me why my name is on this disaster. Ma's hands trembled as she picked up the papers, flipping through them as though seeing them for the first time. It's not, she began, then faltered, her voice failing her. Gavin, ever the bold one, rolled his eyes. It's just paperwork, he said dismissively. You weren't going to use that money anyway. I froze. I had expected excuses, lies, maybe even apologies. But this was raw arrogance. I took a step toward him, forcing him to meet my eyes. You stole from me, I said, my voice dangerously calm. You forged my signature and racked up $400,000 in debt. And you think that's just paperwork? Maya reached out and touched my arm. Please, let's just talk. I pulled away. Now you want to talk. You had every chance before you dragged me into this nightmare. Gavin scoffed, but his fidgeting hands and twitching jaw betrayed his nerves. I leaned in closer. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. His confidence wavered. Look, man, this doesn't have to go legal. I let out a dark, humorless laugh. Oh, we're way past that. I turned to Maya. You knew, didn't you? About the forged documents, about the embezzlement? She swallowed hard and looked away. Tell me the truth, Maya. How long? She hesitated, then murmured, Since last year. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. So while you were mocking me in that restaurant, you were already drowning in this mess. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. I straightened, letting out a sharp breath. Here's what's going to happen. Gavin shifted uncomfortably. You're going to help us, right? That made me laugh an actual laugh. Help you? I repeated. No, I'm going to bury you. His face darkened. What the hell does that mean? I picked up the documents from the table. It means my lawyer has already frozen every account linked to my name. It means every loan has been formally disputed, and it means the bank is about to launch a full investigation into who forged these signatures. Maya exhaled shakily. Please don't do this. Oh, I'm just getting started. I cut in because I also hired a private investigator. And guess what he found? Gavin tensed. I smiled. That little embezzlement scheme you've been running, the one you thought no one would uncover. Mia's eyes went wide. I know everything. I cut her off, and soon so will the authorities. Gavin's face flushed deep red. You can't prove anything. I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and let the audio recording play. Gavin's voice filled the room. I shifted the money around so it wouldn't get flagged. Just a few fake invoices, nothing serious. As the words echoed, the color drained from his face. I stopped the recording and slipped the phone back into my pocket. Oh, I can prove it. The silence that followed was suffocating. Maya turned to Gavin, realization crashing over her. You lied to me, she whispered. Gavin shot her a glare. You're no saint either, Maya. I watched as the fragile alliance between them crumbled. Trust dissolved, replaced with bitterness. Finally, Gavin turned to me, his voice tight. What do you want? I smiled faintly. Justice? Maya made a choking sound. This will ruin us. I met her eyes. You ruined yourselves. She reached out, her eyes glistening. I made a mistake. I pulled my hand away. Number A, mistake is spilling coffee on someone. Forgetting an anniversary. What you did? That was deliberate. Her lip quivered. Please. I took a slow step back. I don't have any sympathy left for you, Maya. You lost at the moment you signed my name. Gavin, now sweating, dragged a hand through his hair. If we go down, you go down too. I smirked. Rome. While I've been clearing my name, you've been digging your graves. I turned toward the door. Just before stepping out, I paused. You should start looking for a lawyer, I said over my shoulder. You're going to need one. And with that, I walked out, leaving them to face the wreckage they had created. They thought they could get away with it, that I would just roll over and take it. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I drove home with a storm churning inside me. I had confronted them, made it clear their web of lies was unraveling, but I wasn't satisfied. Not yet. This wasn't about revenge, not even about anger anymore. It was about justice. Maya and Gavin had tried to destroy my life, steal my identity, and walk away without consequence. They had mocked me, humiliated me, assumed I was too weak to fight back. They were wrong. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my mind was already turning over the next steps. I wasn't just going to clear my name, I was going to dismantle theirs. The next morning, I was in my lawyer's office before the sun had even risen. Mr. Cameron didn't flinch as I walked in unannounced and dropped a thick folder onto his desk. I want everything locked down, I said, my voice cool and steady. Every bank account, every asset tied to my name frozen. I want disputes filed with every financial institution affected by this fraud. He adjusted his glasses, flipping through the documents. I anticipated this. The disputes are already underway. Legal notices have been sent to the banks, and investigations into the forged signatures have been requested. You'll start seeing progress in the next few weeks. It wasn't fast enough. Not good enough, I said, leaning in. I want pressure. I want them feeling the heat now. Mr. Cameron met my gaze, a small smirk forming on his lips. You really want to go after them, don't you? I didn't blink. They didn't hesitate to destroy me. I won't hesitate to return the favor. He gave a sharp nod. Then we don't just dispute the loans. We press criminal charges. The word criminal sent a chill down my spine, but I nodded. Do it. He immediately picked up the phone and began making calls. But I wasn't finished. After leaving the law office, I met with Reed, the private investigator I had hired. He was a non-nonsense professional who had unearthed more dirt on Gavin in 48 hours than Maya probably had seen in 2 years. Sliding a manila folder across the table, Reed said simply, "You were right." I opened it, my stomach nodding with dark satisfaction. Gavin hadn't just forged my name, he'd been embezzling from their company for years. Fake invoices, phantom employees, money funneled into private accounts. The most damning part, Maya had signed off on most of it.